Hi, my name is Joseph Fernandez, second year student, architect major. And the subject wanted to talk about today was immigration. The reason I chose this topic was, to be completely honest, wasn't a topic that I was really interested in to begin the semester. But the more I read on it, the more I was exposed to it. Through the Democratic debates or through Donald Trump saying, "Oh, we're going to build a wall," this crazy stuff. The more I looked into it, the more passionate about it I became. And what I want to start with was, ever since I was a little kid, I was always taught that the United States is a melting pot of different cultures and societies. Um, you know, whether you take your friend to an Italian restaurant or you think about the American, the democratic system that we have in place now has its roots in Greece, a place that we can attribute them thinking about it and essentially we borrowing that idea and making it our own. There's a lot of different examples where we've done that. Um, so essentially, the title of my essay was "Following the European Model," and to me, the one of the most unacceptable things that I've seen is that a presidential candidate saying, "Oh, we need to segregate the Muslims or we need to deport the Mexicans." Um, I think as a nation, it's unacceptable to do that. That's not who we are, and that's not what our foundation has been all these hundreds of years. But at the same time, it's unacceptable as a nation to leave the borders open, to leave that possibility of drug traffickers or violent people or murderers coming across, the border and wreaking havoc or breaking the laws that we have here in the United States. So essentially, the problem is that we have an immigration crisis coming along the U.S. Mexican border. And the solution that I think would be a good way to solve the problem is following the European model in the sense that the European Union just recently, or CNN published an article on the European Union doing what's called a one in, one out deal, where migrants coming from Syria into Greece will be relocated from Greece to Turkey. In exchange, the European Union will send money and aid and temporarily lift visa requirements to Turkey for every citizen that it brings across, which I think is an interesting idea that we can use here in the United States. Maybe not the exact same thing, but something that we can make our own to solve this problem about immigration. Um, I think that when you say we need to build a wall to keep the Muslims out, I think, maybe that's not the right way to do it, but I think it might be a step in the right direction. I may not completely agree with it, but when you live somewhere, you have clear boundaries between you and your neighbors. Even though you should probably have a good working relationship with them, I think we need to have a good working relationship with Mexico. And there's no way that we're just going to be able to force them to pay for the building of a wall, but maybe in some form we can do the same thing as the European model. Maybe for every immigrant that wants to come get relocated to the United States, they pay for a portion of the wall, or maybe vice versa. Sort of a way that we can, in exchange for them building the wall, we can do something about the immigrants coming across. That way, there's something mutual about building this wall to, get them more involved. But at the same time, I think that's not the only way that we can fix this. Let's say you do build a wall. Who's going to man the wall, or who's going to pay for the wall? Paying for the wall, I think, should be on both the United States and Mexico. I think it's both their responsibilities. In some way, there has to be some sort of mutual agreement where both sides benefit from it. As far as who's going to man the wall, I think that's the responsibility of the United States. We have one of the strongest militaries in the world. We have many men in overseas operations that a lot of people want home and would probably feel more comfortable with along the border than they would in um, some Middle Eastern town. So maybe instead of trying to invest in new programs to man and equip the wall, maybe we could move or redeploy those men in overseas operations to here at home. Um, and I guess one other problem you might see is, well, okay, well, you have the people, you have the money to build it. How will you get it done would be the next question. Essentially, I would like to make both sides, get their way as far as the Democrat and Republican. The Republican side, oh, we want a wall. Okay, we'll build a wall. The Democratic side, we want to keep families together, which is a little tricky. I think that, when you have families coming across as immigrants, I think it'd be a good idea to keep them together. But at the same time, I think there has to be a very strict screening policy. If there's Maybe the head of household is a criminal. You want to keep the family together. That's great, but at the same time, you want to make sure that you're safe. So maybe in exchange for letting this criminal cross, there has to be strict regulation. Maybe he has to be okay with being under surveillance from the FBI, or maybe he has to comply and help the FBI, catch other killers or other criminals of that nature. Something that benefits the United States in exchange for that family coming across. Like I said, it has to be something mutual. Um, I guess the next challenge would be, you know, getting both sides in Congress to agree to this. Essentially, there's a lot of steps and difficulties in order to get this done. You first of all have to get the funding to build it. Then who's going to man it, and then who's going to, how are they going to manage to get it through Congress? So it's a very tough task, and I can see why a simple solution hasn't been found for it yet. But I think it's something as Americans, as a nation who's one of the richest, the strongest, and smartest in the world, I think it's something that we can accomplish, and have a good solution for. Thank you.